get when you combine Jeremiah Love, Riley Leonard, and 5 unforced fumbles for your opponent. A blowout Notre Dame victory, and that's what happened today at MetLife Stadium. I'm Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated with John Brice of FootballScoop and Irish Illustrated, and JB. Navy couldn't afford 2 turnovers, much less 5 unforced fumbles, all recovered by the Irish, including 1 for a touchdown. We'll get to the outstanding Notre Dame offense a little bit later.
No, just a really thorough performance from Notre Dame, and yes, Navy, hands it away, probably played its worst game since debuting in Ireland on August 26th of 2023. I don't recall Navy looking quite that poor in all phases at any point since that time. Now, I'm not taking away from Notre Dame. Notre Dame's physicality, Notre Dame's pressure, and Notre Dame's presence
yes.
had a lot to do with Navy playing that so very poorly.
Yeah, 6 turnovers. It's the first time the intern said since 2002 for Navy. It's notable that the 4 lost fumbles is the first since 2019 at Notre Dame Stadium. Now, those were more forced, actually, in that one. I think 1 Malcolm Perry fumble was a bad pitch. But that's a great word you use, JB, presence, because this is out of character for Navy. They hadn't fumbled since game 1. They hadn't lost a fumble. They had 1 turnover since game 1. Notre Dame's presence defensively, it made Navy press. It made Navy realize what they had to do, because there was a comment prior. We've all talked about how Notre Dame has better players than Navy. They always have better players than Navy. But at some point, we heard pregame that Navy felt 2-on-1 is what you need. They can make you feel like it's 2-on-1 every time you're a Navy player going out against Notre Dame defensively, because they're so well-schooled, we're so fast. Couple of busts, but a couple busts are going to happen against Navy. It's a well-schooled machine offensively. A little bit to talk about Notre Dame's defense first, because if you're going to hold Navy to 14 points, you're going to win even if the offense didn't show up.
Yeah, no, I think I wrote it in my prediction. I've been pretty candid in saying it. I really, truly believe Al Golden is the best defensive coordinator right now in college football. And I understand very clearly there are some great defensive coordinators right now in college football. Glenn Schumann at Georgia, absolutely at the top of that list, particularly with what Schumann did a week ago for Georgia on the road at Texas. But look, and the history so much better than me, T.O., so I want to stress that, but I have tried to verse myself in it. I know our friend Greg Fleming had a tweet this week of an older Notre Dame Navy game where Navy threw a Hail Mary, basically, and it got deflected, and Notre Dame needed a tackle inside the 5-yard line to preserve a win. So there's so much history, rich history, in this Notre Dame Navy series. But as each year goes on, and each year that Notre Dame hangs on to Al Golden, gets more entrenched in Al Golden's system, reflects Al Golden's system, its basic tenets, its discipline, I think Al Golden is a huge MVP in this game today, because of the way he coaches Notre Dame, because of the way he prepares Notre Dame. And that's taking nothing away from Mike Mickens and Max Bulla and that staff, what have you. But I think that when you look at the Notre Dame Navy history, especially how far Notre Dame has come since that scare a couple of years ago, to me, Al Golden is the overriding factor, and then the way the defense plays in Al Golden's constructs.
I want to kind of finish it up with the turnovers, because there's a lot more to this game than just those turnovers. That's just what kept Navy from competing, the turnovers. It was everything else that kept them from having a chance of winning. There's no such thing as a turning point necessarily in a 51-14 game, but when it is 28-7, Navy busts a long run with Blake Horvath. Leonard Moore catches him from behind, hawks him down. Notre Dame gets a red zone stop and a missed field goal. It has 2 minutes to go down and score 31-7 instead of 28-10 when Navy's getting the ball to start the second half. If you're going to fight a turning point in this game, that was it. Leonard Moore making a big play, and then Leonard Moore making a 4th down interception in the red zone as well. Pretty good effort for a rookie in his 3rd career start, going against an option he has never seen before.
And maybe, T.O., you and I, or some combination of us at Irish Illustrated and the Scoop, can work on this next week, but it's fresh in my mind. What Notre Dame did right before the half last week against Georgia Tech, similar circumstances, forcing a miss and then turning it into a positive. The exact same thing today. We know that Notre Dame talks at length and preaches winning the middle 8. I'm very curious to go back and look at the first 2/3 of this season and just see how effectively Notre Dame has won the middle 8. But we know specifically, with a little recency bias here, that the last 2 weeks, the middle 8 have been great for Notre Dame. And that's why you've seen not only Irish victories, but convincing Irish victories away from home.
And special teams helped Notre Dame and destroyed Navy. Great stat here for you. Tom, the intern. Notre Dame starting field position just over the 40-yard line. Navy just around their own 20-yard line. And I'm going to add one that I figured out when I was looking at the drive chart. Notre Dame never punted when they lost possession of the football. They punted twice. Navy muffed them both and gave them both back to Notre Dame. That's a recipe for success when you're Notre Dame, when you punt twice and score touchdowns on both of your punt drives.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I believe is very key. Well, first of all, near the end of the first quarter, Notre Dame already had 18 offensive snaps. This is not a tempo offense, and yet all of a sudden Notre Dame was on pace for 80-plus offensive snaps just after the first quarter because of the way that the Irish dominated that. Also, Notre Dame did a great job of not having a bunch of three-play drives today and not just being quick to put its defense back out on the field. And we talked about it in leading into the game. We talked about it on the Thursday podcast. I believe very strongly that the difference in physicality from a sheer size standpoint was very much a key factor and a key asset for Notre Dame. And I thought we saw that today. I know the time of possession ended up pretty even, but Notre Dame wins time of possession by right around a minute, a little over 30 minutes. Look, when you possess the ball like that against the Navy team, particularly when the Navy team is outmatched and needs to possess the ball more in order to have a chance, then once again, it's a pathway to victory for the Irish. And it's hard to imagine Notre Dame having done more for the good in the last 6 games since that disappointing 1-1 start because of the way that 1-1 start unfolded. But Notre Dame has put itself in prime position, as we've said all along, to make November as meaningful as any November we've seen for the Irish since 2020, since 2018, and as meaningful, period, as any stretch of games ever under Marcus Freeman.
JB, I'm glad you brought up the 3-play drives because we're gonna get into this eventually offensively. In the first 5 games, Notre Dame had 14 drives with just 3 plays. That could include a fumble. It doesn't have to be a punt, but that's also a bad drive when you have 3 plays and fumble or throw an interception. In the last 3, they have had 3. In those first 5 games, they also had 11 what I call totally empty drives. You don't gain more than 25 yards. You don't get a field goal off. 11 in those 5. In the last 3, 3. So they've had 6 drives that weren't highly effective in the last 3 games, and they had 25 in the first 5. It's just a different offense right now, which segues to the tandem. Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love, when it's rolling like that, they're tough to stop.
They are tough to stop. We talked about it, the number of touches we thought they needed, and we wanted to see some combination of Love and Leonard and Brice be well into the 30s. They didn't quite get there because they were able to use.
They got ahead too much. They got ahead by too much.
Yeah, exactly. They look. If you sub out Jadarian Price for Kedron Young, then they're absolutely in the wheelhouse that we talked about. Look, it's 12, 10, 10. That's 32. You had a catch for Love. You maybe had a catch for one of those other guys. But again, we said 32 to 40 touches would be a sweet spot that would lead to a convincing Notre Dame win. Those 3 guys specifically, Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love, and then Kedron Young got the 32 touches. They pushed up for around 235 total yards between the 3 of them and 4 touchdowns. Whether you want that third back to be Love or Williams or Brice or whomever, that's a recipe as good as it absolutely gets for Notre Dame. Now, still plenty to nitpick with the offense. Riley Leonard starting 7 for 7 and then going 6 of 14 the rest of the game. Obviously not ideal. But again, this is an offense that's evolving, that's continuing to add new wrinkles. We saw a couple of new wrinkles today, a couple of new formations that I don't personally recall having seen through the first 7 games. And we saw growth from the offense today.
And speaking of growth, I know Jeremiah Love, you can see it's fun to watch Navy and Notre Dame play because so much happens at the line of scrimmage. I just use binoculars. You can see Jeremiah Love set up his 64-yard run with a little stutter. Well blocked, of course, up front. But Jeremiah Love's ability to get skinny and pick up third down now is a huge difference than it used to be at the beginning of the year. Remember, the plan was Jabron Payne because Jabron Payne gets skinny. Well, now you have Jeremiah Love getting skinny. That's different than Jabron Payne because if he breaks through, there's a big change at that second level. 3 third-down conversions for Jeremiah Love today. I think that's great going forward.
Boy, that's a super good stat from UTO to note that. I knew that he moved the sticks a couple of key moments for them. Here's the other thing about Jeremiah Love, and yes, he can get skinny. He can slide into a little bit smaller crease when it's not blocked with just a gaping hole. He's running with more power, and we saw it a week ago, and we heard Riley Leonard talk about it a week ago with the way that he's blocking with more power. But I believe very firmly he's absolutely running with more power. Certainly today he ended any conversation about whether or not he's healthy with the way that he was explosive, the power that he ran with, the tough yardage that he got, and then the things that he was able to do to break free and get even more yardage from that. So he's as big a component for this Notre Dame November, as I'm going to continue to brand it, as you can have for the Notre Dame offense. Yes, it takes Riley Leonard operating the offense and making good decisions. But when you look at the players, the Jeremiah Love ceiling is greater than the Riley Leonard ceiling, and Jeremiah Love is coming increasingly closer to touching that ceiling.
I'm glad you mentioned the ceiling because it's also, and I keep using usage rate, and it has gone down ever since the bye. The Riley Leonard usage rate has gone down as it had to because he wasn't. First of all, it's not great for your offense, but he also wasn't going to live through the season. There was someone he was going to get. If you're going to run 16 times, you're going to run.
Come on, T.O. They said they could run him quarterback power 40 times a game if they needed to. Yeah, what are you talking about?
That's why my favorite part of this game was when we had Notre Dame has a 3rd and short, and they hit Jaden Greathouse for 42 yards. They weren't even thinking about that a couple weeks or 4 weeks ago on 3rd and short. It was always QB counter. Let's live to fight another set of downs. Let's see if we can gain 4.5 yards when we need 4 yards. That is not it anymore. Greathouse was the first big hit, 42 yards. We already mentioned that, of course, Jeremiah loves 64. That's a touchdown every game, plus a receiving touchdown mixed in, right? He has 9 touchdowns, or at least 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns now, but a touchdown every game. The most to start a season since Autry Denson. Big play for Bo Collins, 37-yard touchdown. Jordan Faison had 2. 1 was called back. That's what we need to see because I sat next to Tyler James and Tim Priester today, and Tyler and I were talking about it. We don't love the RPO to try to gain 4 yards to the boundary. It seems like it's a little bit much. It seems like it's a lot of effort for little reward, risk reward. They're starting to hit it deeper now in some of those RPOs.
They are. They're starting to hit it deeper. You brought up Faison. That was one of the talking points that when we discussed an outline, we didn't specifically say that, but I knew we would get to that. 4 receptions for Faison, a long of 26. Then he also has 25 yards after the catch. Again, significant. What this team continues to do with yards after the catch is significant. 80 today, I think, after having something like 180 last week, a huge yak number last week. That's the way this offense can flourish. And then also Riley Leonard increasingly taking some more shots downfield. I wonder if it's the only game this season where Notre Dame had 5 receivers with a long reception of 13 or more yards, and 4 of those guys with a reception of basically 20 yards or more. I don't, off the top of my head, recall, certainly not against a quality opponent, where Notre Dame had those kinds of numbers for their receivers catching the ball far beyond the sticks and then also being able to do something with it. But the Faison return, 4 receptions and a high volume of snaps, very effective, very healthy. You tested him more today, knowing you get to give him next week to continue to monitor that ankle, rehab that ankle, further fully strengthen that ankle. Today was just a massive, massive win for Notre Dame, far beyond the scoreboard, but with what Notre Dame was able to do on both sides of the football and even in special teams to an extent.
I quickly looked this up. It looks like Riley Leonard was 6 for 10 for 140 yards and a touchdown on throws over 10 yards. So 10 and 20-yard throws. I mean, that's, you just keep saying winning formula, winning recipe. That's what he needs every game. At least that, and the fact that it spreads out too, that you get Bo Collins involved, Jaden Greathouse. I thought Mitchell Evans looked the quickest he has looked this year as well. He's still an underneath guy. I mean, I don't think we're going to see, unless it's in December, the real Mitchell Evans from what he could have been as a true senior without the injury. But now him coming back and be able to help you out on the underneath routes, that takes this offense a step farther too.
Well, and again, I'm a firm believer that Mitchell Evans will position this team to win a game this year. I absolutely believe that. What you're doing is you're continuing to get Mitchell Evans, and he flashed today with just more suddenness than we've seen from him. More I don't even know, efficiency and movement might be the best way to phrase it. But again, he's doing that. But when an opponent goes and watches the film, they're going to have to really dive in to notice that about Mitchell Evans, because he's not making that highlight play. I think that's a positive for Notre Dame, because I still think it's wholly in his capacity to make that kind of play for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame hasn't had to show it yet. I'm fully convinced that Mike Denbrock is going to unload a play that he feels is an absolute winner from Riley Leonard to Mitchell Evans, that we're going to turn in whatever press box we're sitting in and be like, that's what the heck we've been talking about and waiting on all year long.
Right. Defensively, I thought we might talk to Jalen Steed post-game because he had a touchdown. The ball was dropped. He dove on it. That's a good job. That's what you're supposed to do when the ball's dropped right in front of you, right? I thought Junior Tuli Halamaka played a good game on the edge. There's a reason he got the start. Josh Burnham did his job on the edge as well. Howard Cross, I know we were both a little concerned because he looked kind of angry when he limped off the field against Georgia Tech. That usually means you're hurt more than you're letting on. There's a frustration there. Remember, Cooper Flanagan had that happen to him against Miami. Cross had a good day. Pressure. Wasn't as much pressure on Horvath as I thought there would be on some passing plays, but he was quick to leave the pocket. I think that helps Notre Dame too, because you're able to dictate a little bit more. I don't love the sprint out right trying to beat Notre Dame and Xavier Watson, Christian Gray on the side. So Jack Kaiser, of course, as well. So what else stood out to you defensively? I thought Kaiser, of course, you'd see Kaiser come out, they'd bust a 12-yard play, and Kaiser would come back in. Like, okay, they got to get that guy back in there.
You know, we heard Marcus Freeman this week say it, and for this season, I felt it was one of the more revealing and compelling comments that Marcus Freeman has made when he talked about being tactically aggressive. And I thought we saw some tactical aggression today from Notre Dame. I thought we saw a confidence that if Notre Dame could be aggressive and if it busted a play, that the Irish would still recover, and that busted play wouldn't turn into a catastrophic play or wouldn't turn into a touchdown. It did not. And then the balance of tackling, I know we talked about this with TZ in preparing for this show. The balance of tackling from the Notre Dame defense today is probably among the best all season, but particularly given the opponent being Navy, I think it's highly significant to point out that the Irish had 8 defenders today, notch at least 4 tackles, and Jalen Sneed up there at the top with 9. Which you had alluded to it. I give you all the credit in the world, T.O. You said for 2 weeks leading into the conversation about the Navy game is that for whatever Jalen Sneed's shortcomings are, they like something about him against Navy. He showed that today. He peeled off a couple of plays, made nice tackles. I thought that you could just see there's a comfort level with Sneed, the way he plays against the Navy offense and the option offense. It peeled off today and was visible. But again, when Notre Dame has 8 defenders with 4+ tackles, including a couple of guys at the top of the box with 9 tackles apiece and 2 more with 7 tackles apiece, that's a formula for beating Navy. When you have that sort of collective effort, that's exactly how you keep a Navy offense from ever remotely threatening to make this a game.
And collective effort, I'm glad you brought up 8 players, because I have Notre Dame for 7 combined 3rd and 4th down stops. Now, if Navy just throws a bad pass, I don't even credit a player. So I have 7 of them, 6 different players. That's also key in these situations. You had Christian Gray, Xavier Watts, Gabriel Rubio, Jalen Steed we just mentioned, Xavier Watts again, Drake Bowen, and Leonard Moore. That's a lot of work against Navy on 3rd and 4th down. You have to win those 3rd and 4th downs. It's a different Navy team. They're not always trying to grind you into 3rd and 4th down. But that did happen at some point. It looked like Navy realized we got to settle this game down. Maybe they wanted to stop fumbling too, but they settled the game down. But Notre Dame was turning them away at crucial points. And Gabriel Rubio continuing to improve. They need him. They need Gabriel Rubio to continue to improve. And when I say get back in better shape, that's not a knock on Gabriel Rubio. He missed all the spring. He came into August camp and broke his foot. And he's a 315-pound guy. He's not going to look like the best version of Gabriel Rubio, but maybe he can in November.
Absolutely. And he was very active today. And we've said all along, this action that Rubio has gotten these 3 games in October, to me, is such a bonus. He'll be so much better for it because he gets this action, then gets the bye week, and then he gets the benefit of healing up, but then getting action that lets him know where he is, what he needs to work on the most over the next 2 weeks before what we know is just an absolutely critical stretch for what Notre Dame wants to do this year. Like being able to get Billy Schrauth back today and being able to get an effective Jordan Faison back today. I think you have to give Lauren Landau, the strength and performance staff, the training staff, Rob Hunt and that crew. I think you have to give them a lot of credit for the way that they've been able to get players back and then maximize their individual roles without overusing them and putting them in position to truly benefit from this, not garbage snaps, but really quality snaps, then go in, get healed up, learn from where their body is and what they physically need to do also on the field, and then prepare for this stretch run. So that to me is an element. And then the other element that I cannot believe that we either haven't talked about really on this show thus far, or certainly haven't spent enough time on TO, and it's something we hit on time and time again coming into the game. Navy entered the game #1 in the country in red zone offense, a perfect 23 for 23, and they exit the game 1 for 3 today. So three trips only is very much a huge win for the Notre Dame defense. But then within that, a team that entered the game 100% scoring in the red zone and exited this contest with 33% scoring. Once again, Al Golden, the Notre Dame defense, huge kudos for what they were able to do.
That was the first question in the press conference today, and I asked Marcus Freeman about the red zone play and the red zone defense because I kind of prefaced it on Thursday to ask him if and he admitted we're putting more time into red zone defense. We have to. He didn't give away any secrets, but going to where he says you're looking for perfection, I think he thought I meant they didn't do well enough because they gave up the 1 touchdown in the red zone. I was like, no, it was a very good red zone effort. That's why they were able to get away from Navy is because the 2 Leonard Moore plays. Leonard Moore tackled. Now, he didn't make the play at the end. I mean, that's when Xavier Watts made a 3rd down play. Leonard Moore with the pick. That was huge. And I have been remiss in my duties here, JB, before we get rolling and talk about November for a minute. I did not check the comments, and we have some comments here. So we're going to go through this. Adam B says, I think I don't think this is an accurate statement. I think he had a 1 bad play start. Adam B, why did Christian Gray have a bad game? That was concerning for me. They had Christian Gray on an island the entire game. He had the holding penalty downfield. I guess it was a pass interference penalty where it looked like he tried to slingshot himself past the receiver. If they're talking about the one play where they went one-on-one with Gray down the deep right sideline from where I'm looking at the field, that is the wide receiver I said is one of the fastest people in the country that got a step on Gray.
An Olympic trials wide receiver, yes.
Yes. Other than that, I thought Christian Gray was fine. I mean, maybe we missed it. Maybe I missed it from up in the booth, but I just think he had a one-on-one job all day long. He was never going to have any help because you can't play Navy that way.
No, you can't. And he had a half tackle for loss among his 2 tackles. So I think that's significant because it's showing probably ultimately a little bit more belief from Christian Gray and where his shoulder is if he's getting behind the line of scrimmage and helping make a play like that. And then on the play where he got called for the holding or the pass interference, he had great position. He reached out at the last second and pulled on the back of the jersey. And it's instinctive in that moment. You're wanting to make sure you don't give up a huge play. But I don't think that ball was going to be completed even without him tugging on the Navy receiver's jersey. And again, Christian Gray needs the bye week. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman will not come right out and say it, but Christian Gray on the defensive side of the ball probably needs the bye week as much as anybody not named Howard Cross. And I would put Howard Cross and Christian Gray and probably Riley Mills right behind that in terms of the guys who absolutely need this bye week the most on the defensive side of the football. I don't worry about Christian Gray as highly as we all think of him, as much as I absolutely very firmly believe he's going to be a top 40, top 50 NFL pick in a year from now. He's still not played just an overwhelming amount of football. And we heard Al Golden say it this week. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. So watch Christian Gray be better in the month of November than what we saw today, but I don't think he was bad today. He just wasn't elite today.
Jason Z has a question, and I kind of agree with this. I started a study. I have 2 answers for it. Not a huge fan of the tunnel screens to love. He's getting crushed for 3+ yard losses every time this season. He really does. You still have to keep finding ways to get Jeremiah Love the ball because Jeremiah Love has 3 at least 25-yard gains on standard screens or check down screens. I agree that the traffic he's getting put in the tunnel screens might not suit what Notre Dame does best.
So you guys covered this one on site today. Noah Farizzi and I set up a temporary Irish Illustrated / FootballScoop command here at my home in South Bend. And Noah and I talked about this specific aspect of the screen game. And I still, much like the Mitch Evans component, and look, if at the end of the season I'm wrong and you want to ridicule me, do it. I still firmly believe Mike Denbrock is showing a commitment to some of these screens because he's setting up something else. And we saw the commitment to the screens to set up something else against Louisville that proved to be the game-winning touchdown to Jeremiah Love because they went backside. So I still think that, one, if you feel the look is there, it's a confidence booster for the Notre Dame offense because all things considered, it should be a layup completion. But number two, I really believe there's a commitment to them because Notre Dame is preparing to set up something else with it. And one more quick shout out because our interns are so freaking good, from Tom to Chris to Noah. Noah called the Leonard Moore pick beforehand. Now, he said, I think he might be about to get a pick 6 here, but he called it so confidently that I accused him of having an advanced feed of the game. So shout out to Noah on the Leonard Moore pick call because he nailed it. I don't know if he nailed it on DraftKings or not, but he nailed it.
Yeah, I have a bad DraftKings story with I got about 7 out of 8, and let's just say one quarterback on the other team did not throw his one touchdown to make it 8 out of 8 for me, but otherwise I was on point. JB, I'm going to put you on the spot before we go. ND Dan, where is ND going to stand in the first playoff standings? Because that's where we are now, and it is coming up after Notre Dame's bye week. I do think that's a mild issue, which is a good thing that Notre Dame put 51 on Navy for their last judgment by the committee, but they will be on a bye week when there's other big games going on.
I think because there are more big games tonight. Look, LSU, Texas A&M, somebody is going to lose that game. Somebody is going to have 2 losses coming out of that game. I think Notre Dame will be in the top 12 in the initial CFP rankings because of what's still left today. And without glancing too far ahead at next weekend's schedule, I still think that there are some significant matchups next weekend. Notre Dame can't lose next weekend. Notre Dame has to be a 1-loss team when the first CFP ranking is unveiled. I think Notre Dame will be within the confines of the top 12.
Notre Dame moves to 7-1 on the season. They have their second bye week coming up. 51-14 over Navy at MetLife Stadium. For John Brice of Football Scoop and Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for joining us on Irish Illustrated Overtime.